It's amazing. You can't believe how many times I've talked. But it still comes down, my son was murdered. And I haven't gotten the answers that I want. And I'm bitter. And I'm angry. So that's why it makes it very difficult. It's tough, I talk to so many people, and so many people are rational, and they really have great answers. And this is a fault of mine. And one of the positive things is I bring passion to this. But one of the faults is I want my answers now, immediately, and I want the perpetrators of the murder of my son. And I've spent 6 years going to every commission hearing, talking to so many people. And there's simple questions, just simple questions that the media won't talk about. My God, if I can't have a rational conversation with my neighbor about Tower 7 coming down, they look at me and say, what are you, nuts? These are my neighbors. It's tough to get 5-minute conversation with them. That's insane. Absolutely insane. And this list goes on and on and on and on. And I've gone my entire life believing that what our government does is right. And I've always believed that. And she's, 57, 58 years old now. And she says, that's the first time I've looked at our government and said, geez, maybe everything isn't true.
August 2nd, 1990, Saddam Hussein's forces crashed through the defenses of oil-rich Kuwait. In fear of an Iraqi invasion into Saudi Arabia, the United States and her coalition allies poured into the Arabian Peninsula to form a deterrent that would be known as Desert Shield. The result was a series of diplomatic talks, negotiations and counter-negotiations that rapidly declined into a no-hope situation.
Clearly, I've never been there, but this feels like we're in the center of hell. There continue to be these flashes of light often. Whoa! Holy cow!
The conflict was witnessed by millions through the eye of CNN and the BBC, showing propaganda of the systematic eradication of Saddam's forces by a coalition far superior in technological, political, and economic power. However, what was little known was that from the outset the war was engineered, controlled, and manipulated by an elite group. A group which had created the illusion of a man with power, at the head of a million-strong army, on the verge of going nuclear. A man who had gained control over 1/5 of the world's oil overnight. However, in reality, he was merely a pawn, in amongst many pawns. Just a puppet in a grand master plan, with the Gulf War as a well-orchestrated stepping stone.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
America will not impose our own style of government on the unwilling. Our goal instead is to help others find their own voice.
He should have been killed a long time. By whom? By anyone.
Se va preso porque es un golpe de Estado.
Se destituyen de sus cargos ilegítimamente ocupados al presidente y demás magistrados del Tribunal Supremo de Justicia.
Una dictadura, queremos a Chávez. Chávez,
Me llevaron. Pensé que iba a morir.
This plan is a staged UFO attack on Earth. We have been preconditioned by all the media for the past couple of decades to slowly but surely start accepting the existence of aliens and UFOs. I can tell you right now that 99% of every UFO sighting that has ever taken place has actually not been an unidentified flying object, because this has always been military technologies. Another thing I'd like to point out is surveys and questionnaires. You know, we get surveys and questionnaires all the time. You know, sent out by the state or by the government or by our rulers and our officials and so on and so forth. Do you really think that these ruling powers care about what you think? Do you really think that they're waiting to ask you and receive your answer before making a decision? What happens with these questionnaires is that they are released. For example, what country do you think the US should attack next? And if it yields back results like 70% of the US population believe Iran is the next country that should be attacked, this is actually a study conducted for the effectiveness of the media propaganda that they are using. So when they get such results, they look at it and they be like, all right, amazing. Our media propaganda is working. We are purposely trying to manipulate people to think that Iran should be the next one. And check out the survey results. We're doing a great job in propaganda. That's what it's all about. And if the results come back and they aren't up to par, so let's say 20% want war with Iran and 80% want actual peace, they say, okay, so now we have to go and rework our media propaganda and make it more effective so these percentages change. Why am I saying this? Because of the UFO phenomenon. Since the 60s, the amount of people who believe in extraterrestrials have skyrocketed, and are only increasing day by day in our modern world. This only confirms the success and the plans that are taking place to first manipulate you to believe in UFOs, and second, to conduct a UFO attack that is going to force the whole world to unite to fight off this enemy and accept the new world order.
A former Canadian government official is warning we may be on the verge of intergalactic war, saying, quote, the Bush administration has finally agreed to let the military build a forward base on the moon, which will put them in a better position to keep track of the comings and goings of visitors from space, and to shoot at them if they so decide.
I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space, because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over. And the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. As a military strategist, as a person who worked on the MX missile, which I did later, he said, you will find that there is going to be a spin to find some enemy against whom we have to build space-based weapons, and now we should expect the spin. And that's the formula, except that it's all based on a lie.
A supersonic saucer. Called the Silver Bug, it was truly revolutionary. The plans show in detail a multi-jet engine craft that boasted amazing maneuverability and speed. It's an intriguing thought that this concept may tie in with the work of the German scientists who brought saucer technology to the US at the close of the Second World War.
What was needed were certain cover stories. What do you do when people are spotting aircraft and then telling reporters that they've seen something very unusual flying out of an airbase in Nevada? And frankly, this was the origin of a lot of the sightings that took place in the mid-50s, 1954, 55, 56, of unidentified flying objects, the UFOs. So the CIA was involved in encouraging people to believe that, yes, they saw UFOs, and the CIA and the military tried to be very helpful to reporters to get these stories out, to divert the attention of the country, and particularly the people in this region, about what they had actually seen.
Mexican Air Force pilots capturing on videotape what are said to be 11, count them, 11 UFOs.
The Mexican Air Force has released a video that some of you are going to find difficult to believe. A journalist says it shows images of UFOs tracking a Mexican military plane.
So what's the truth about UFOs? The story of successive attempts to develop radically new forms of flight, conducted under the strictest secrecy, is inextricably bound up with our relationship with UFOs over the last 60 years. Whether it's Allied pilots buzzed by strange balls of fire in 1942, or the Roswell incident 5 years later, there is a strong case to be made that secret military technology offers a convincing explanation for many UFO stories.
Anytime the government has secrets that they can keep from us, they can manipulate us by those secrets. In essence, they still remain 25 years at least ahead of us in technology, information, and knowledge, and secrets, and they are using them against us. I heard over the years many times over that the plan to usher in the New World Order would be to make all the people in this country and around the world feel totally helpless to prevent the New World Order from occurring, this world dominance plan, by saying that we had been invaded by aliens, so that we would say, oh, please, UN, come in and help us all. So bear in mind that there is a plan, orchestration, to get people to be submissive through the secret technology and information that they're keeping from you under the blanket of the so-called National Security Act.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
So what about the other 1% of the UFO phenomenon? Has there ever been legitimate sightings? As promised, we're going to cover this 1% in a future episode. But I'll share with you something a wise man once shared with me. Before we should start focusing on dealing with problems outside our world, we should first focus on solving the problems within our world. And before you can start solving problems within your world, you first have to solve problems within yourself and within your surrounding environment of family and friends. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we have priorities that we need to focus on first and foremost so we can successfully build our lives and our minds. Now, it's no secret that the difference between what the government knows about UFOs and aliens and what is shared or released to the public is extremely enormous. And unfortunately, governments and several organizations on Earth are taking advantage of the UFO phenomenon to achieve worldly agendas.
So why do we see particle beams, huge ones, firing at things that are, you were saying 200,000 Gs?
Yep.
I mean, go over that.
Well, because I think it's part of a test for if there are bad guys out there. Or maybe they're doing preparations for factions. We may be looking at more than one faction. Remember, these groups tend to fragment. They fractally fragment so that you have wars within wars within wars. You know.
But why would NASA release that footage?
Well, remember, you've got all the good guys in NASA, and then you've got a few who are not good guys. The good guys don't know that there's something to keep secret. Remember, the lie's different at every level. They believe the lies they've been told. So when you set up a structure, an institution, which is supposed to be open and above board and is supposed to present live TV of the shuttle mission, they present live TV. Now, the controllers can't say, oh, well, you can broadcast this, but you can't broadcast that. Because the honest guys will then say,
sure.
Well, why can't we broadcast that?
So people always say if this was happening, it would come out, and it is coming out. Well, I mean, I agree with you. When you've got the Catholic Church saying we need to love the aliens, they're our brothers, when you've got every major denomination saying it, when you've got all the movies, and you've got, in the 80s, huge programs at the Olympics with aliens landing, fake aliens, and you've got huge things the size of 3 football fields floating over Dallas and stuff all over the place. Something's going on. And then I read government documents about fake extraterrestrial landings. Any of this. Why? I mean, you believe it's fake.
Remember Operation Northwoods?
Yes.
Okay. Or we can go to the, September 11th. Governments do huge, big things to sway populations at key nodal points in history.
They love hoaxes.
Yeah, well, it's manufactured history is what it is. We are building, all my UFO friends, I need to shake them because they're so, frankly, they're extremely naive, Alex. They really believe we're building toward disclosure. I believe we're building toward a mass, carefully manufactured fake event where ETs, who are really humans, who are really part of this secret clique, who are probably Nazis, who have developed or perfected their technology from World War II, which is why you've got to get, Joseph on. They are going to basically fake out the world. And there's an incredible window on the Nazi black ops programs, the compartmentalized, incredible high-technology efforts that were being funded by the Nazi war machine, particularly toward the end of the war, in a desperate effort to win the war, and they fastened their hopes on several key technologies, some of which appear to be the control of gravity itself, which again is a separate piece of data from my work, which came at this from a hyperdimensional physics perspective.
We know there's a lot of suppressed technology. 20 years after the B-2 bomber was already in service, they declassify it. So we have a lot of cases of that. We know there's a whole shadow government.
This is technology in physics, Alex, that would make anything you think you know like a candle flame compared to a hydrogen bomb. This is a physics that literally allows you to rearrange time.
But imagine you've got all these compartments in these pyramids within pyramids of compartmentalization. That's why that's the New World Order symbol. And we don't know what they've got because they are so secret. We know they lie so much. We just know it's advanced. Mainline scientists say they're 30 years advanced. So Richard C. Hoagland, what I'm saying to you is, I'm entertaining what you're saying. I respect you. I think you're a great guy. My only issue is, like you said, dealing with what we know they could be up to.
The fact, Alex, we have done experiments. We have our own data. We have experiments now from the Soviet Union. 30, 40 years when the Iron Curtain came down, when Glasnost finally prevailed, a huge amount of stuff was declassified from the KGB as well. And we now have put this data together. We not only know what the physics is, we know what it can do, we know what it's based on, we know how to make it work. We've seen in our own experiments ample evidence. We've seen experiments across the American landscape and even in Europe that vindicate various parts of this. And the latest thing I'm working on, it looks like von Braun himself was deeply involved in in some of this early physics experimentation, but they're keeping all the good stuff for themselves. The reason is that if we got access to the good stuff, if we got access to the technologies, the energy, you know, we wouldn't be worried about $4, $5 a gallon gas or $10 a gallon gas. We would live like people are supposed to live, all 6 billion of us who could live lightly on the earth, Alex, with this technology.
And live longer,
Absolutely, and better, and, you know, you could live to 200-300 and have the virility of your 20s and 30s. There's extraordinary medical breakthroughs, there's extraordinary physics breakthroughs, technology breakthroughs, energy. It's all been kept away.
Think about it. We're already on a planet hurtling through space, all these wonders around you, and you've been taught it's bizarre to question, and that's because there's so many kooks in the alternative movement who do talk about ridiculous, you know, Hollywood-style green men, instead of really looking at the shadow government and all these crazy secret societies that are admittedly running NASA and the shadow government.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, during this talk that I'm going to give you, I'm going to explain to you the history of this phenomenon, who the secret government really is, and I will name them by name, the beginning group, the study group. I will tell you who they are today. I'm going to tell you what this is all about. I'm going to tell you who's selling drugs to your children, and I'm going to tell you why the United States government is afraid for you to find out what the truth is regarding UFOs.
And it turns out that even though she remembered that she'd been part of the team to debrief the astronauts, she couldn't remember a thing that they said. She couldn't remember why she no longer was working with NASA. She couldn't remember. In other words, her memory lapses were enormous, and I don't think they were feigned, because we now found the same pattern in all the flight crews. Because the awful truth, Alex, is they have been brainwashed. They have been mind controlled. They have had a technology, a very sophisticated technology, which took away the real missions that they experienced.
Sorry.
At last.
Hey guys, so you have just completed episode 20 of The Arrivals, which means now you're halfway through the series. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of myself and Akinar to really thank all the viewers and all the supporters. There's been a lot of loyal following to this series, and to this we have to thank you guys. Each video of The Arrivals has averaged over 12 honors. And this is a great accomplishment and something really inspiring for us, because this series deals with a lot of deep and controversial issues. So we really appreciate the following we have received. We thank each and every one of you guys. I'd like to especially thank the people that have dedicated their time to upload the series on their pages or dedicate other pages on the internet for this series. tried to do so far is basically remove the blindfolds that have been placed over your eyes with the first 20 episodes. So before you accept and receive what is yet to come, it was a very important step to open and free your mind. And now that you can see, and now that you can understand what's going on, you're going to be able to accept what is yet to come. So, on behalf of myself, Noriega, and Akinar, Assalamu alaikum, or may peace be with you. Hope you enjoy the rest of the series.
know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Nazis chose the symbol. The symbol was not invented by it. The symbol deals with the sun.
A disease
of the mind, it can control you. It's supposed to comfort. Oh, you pretty lies. You're in the city of wonder, ain't gon' play it nice. Watch out tonight, just don't wonder, better think twice. Make sure you call with me out to if you must fall to be right. Your mind can disturb ya. It's like the darkest is light. Disturb ya. It's like the darkest is light. Darkest is light. Darkest is light.
winik ulu kwachento kune hach yah upu sik al leka kuchignae ya bachbateo leka alatie tone ma usan ilik be hach ot sila pusik allo kat kon tulaka bashakate aiteche le mago kadialaje tenin kanga malo chakipakat le chomo tu yala im aiteche le winiko kadiale tenin kat kanakte ya bachmu le bala mo kadiatie insiktiche yan amuknalta beige esena katso kadiatu katene inkat utsak ishiwo lekano tunuka en inwe sikte kutia kashike chachai lekan so kusama ya ba cho lo de maga lekami chuke tuya latum de ora nulun cabe cuyokel ya baal de tune quejo catuya la que creation en exaki de to kashnuko ma de le mala tingla twitch de un eba ma tunah de betik uyah ta musik alo yanobin ukat yetel uchaik balo leluma yanot ilu yaik die yan tsaite che so tsaite
In Arabic, dunya is the illusory element of the world. It's that element that takes people away from the akhirah. And this is shaitan's game. Shaitan's game is to take people away. Shaitan means to make distant. Dunya is near. He makes us feel that dunya is what is close, not akhirah. Islam tells us dunya is distant. One of the root meanings of dunya is to reach out for grapes that you can never grasp. Because this is the nature of dunya. You will never be able to get it. It will always evade you. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith sahih that said, if the son of Adam had one mountain of gold, he would only want a second one.
Drink a baby down. Are you in alright? Leave your things behind, 'cause it's all going off without you. Excuse me, too busy. You're writing your tragedies, mishaps. You bubble wrap when you have no idea what you're like. Just let go, jump in.
We were allies with Saddam Hussein in the 1980s, and we encouraged him to invade.
All right, so I just want to get there. We don't need a history lesson.
From the very first instance, it was about Iraq.
Everybody else thought that grew out of 9/11.
This episode is going to cover and deal with the issue of the difficulties people face unplugging their network of friends and loved ones when it comes to this type of information. I get emails all the time from viewers and subscribers complaining that they find a high level of difficulty in communicating this type of information and this type of what people call conspiracy to their network of friends. They tell me how people reject this information, people fight it, people laugh at you, people call you crazy, call you names. And this is very common when it comes to this type of thinking and this type of knowledge, and I faced it. I assure you that everyone else who delved into this realm of research has faced it. When I first started looking into this stuff and discovering this stuff and realizing what is wrong with the world, I felt like it was my obligation to tell and convince everyone around me of this new type of information that I have come across. But in essence, years down the line, I've learned that it does not work this way. A lesson comes to mind, and this is an ancient Chinese lesson where when teachers wanted to teach knowledge, they used to tell their students that when someone is thirsty, you give them half a cup of water. If they remain thirsty, then you supply them with the second half. This means that first, when someone needs to acquire knowledge, he first has to be thirsty for it. And only after his thirst has been communicated to you, you supply them with half a cup of water. You don't shower them with a full gallon of water, because this is only going to push them away. You give them half a cup. If they ask for the second half, you supply it to them. If they don't, it's not your responsibility. They will sooner or later in their lives. The best way for people to see and change their way of thinking is for them to experience the change, is for them to see and research this knowledge rather than someone telling it to them. So if you do care about someone, or if you do want to share this information, you got to be very subtle. You got to do it in a smart way, and you got to bring the person in. You know, ask them questions instead of supplying the answers. You're sitting watching the news with your friend, and he's talking about certain situations being broadcast on the news. Ask him, why do you think this is this way? Why do you think these stories are covered? Through such type of discussion, rather than preaching, you will build a certain level of trust or a level of comfort between you and the desired listener. And this can help you now to take it to the next step, which is to facilitate ways for him or her to achieve or receive the knowledge that you find valuable. Then the ones who are ready to see and the ones who are ready to be unplugged will do so. Now, why does this happen? Why would people reject such knowledge? Why would people fight such knowledge? Why would people attack you? Well, it happens most definitely for one of the following reasons.
To understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
If you can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see, you're gone. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture of what's happening. And they have.
Fox Noise today actually suggests the fires may have been started by Al-Qaeda.
An FBI memo from late in June of this year is popping up this morning, and it's ominous.
Those who oppose this vital tool in the war on terror need to answer a simple question. Which of the attacks I have just described would they prefer we had not stopped?
You people and 62 million other Americans are listening to me right now because less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network. So you listen to me. Listen to me. Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your gurus. Go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. Man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer in Archie Bunker's house. And no matter how much trouble the hero is in, don't worry, just look at your watch. At the end of the hour, he's going to win. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. But you people sit there day after day, night after night, all ages, colors, creeds. We're all you know. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Welcome to the real world.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
If you look, you'll see the pyramid is built except for the top. It's built except for the top. The eye is suspended above the top. It hasn't come down yet. Because they believe until they finished the Masonic project, which is the what they say on the bottom, Novus Ordo Seclorum, and then Annuetta Chapters, he is pleased with our project. In other words, the God they believe in is pleased with our project. What is the project? This is the question. What is the project that this God is pleased with? The project is literally the secularization of the world. To completely strip the world from religious beliefs. This is the project, and that is why it is called Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new secular or worldly order.
The Quran and the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, directed our attention to another actor, as powerful as Gog and Magog. Who is he? He is Dajjal, the false Messiah, or the Antichrist. Why is he known as the false Messiah? Simple. Because his mission is to impersonate the true Messiah. The true Messiah was the son of Mary, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. When Allah sent him, he was sent as the true Messiah with a mission to rule the world from Jerusalem, from Holy Israel. And so Dajjal is close to the completion of his mission. The Messenger of Allah, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, informed us of the release of Dajjal into the world during his lifetime. During his lifetime. He went on to say that when Dajjal is released into the world, he would live on earth for 40 days. One day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week, and the rest of his days like your days. But when Dajjal was in a day which is like a year, Britain was his headquarters. And when Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, the United States of America became his headquarters. And finally, when Dajjal is going to be in a day which is like a week, he comes back home to the Holy Land. He comes back home to the Holy Land. Dajjal has already completed his first phase, a day like a year, when Britain was the ruling state in the world and the sterling pound was the international currency. And then Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, and the United States replaced Britain as the ruling state in the world. And the US dollar became the international currency. And now the United States is about to relinquish power, and Israel is about to replace the United States as the ruling state in the world. And what will be the new money? Answer: the US dollar is going to be attacked, it will collapse and bring down all the paper money of the world with it. You won't see paper money after that. Well, then what's going to be money? What's the new money that Israel will use to enslave mankind? The way the United States used the US dollar. Answer: Israel is going to use invisible money, you can't see it. Intangible money, you can't touch it. It'll be electronic money. And the strange thing, the dangerous thing about electronic money is that it's controlled by the banking system around the world, and the Jews control the banking system. That's not an uncharitable statement. That's not an invalid statement. That's the truth.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the offices of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam informed us of the release of Dajjal into the world during his lifetime. During his lifetime. He went on to say that when Dajjal is released into the world,
He would live on earth for 40 days. One day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week, and the rest of his days like your days. But when Dajjal was in a day which is like a year, Britain was his headquarters. And when Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, the United States of America became his headquarters. And finally, when Dajjal is going to be in a day which is like a week, he comes back home to the Holy Land. He comes back home to the Holy Land.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
We are opposed around the world
by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era.
Ran into David Gergen, the Karl Rove of 4 presidential administrations.
Okay, one last question. I read a Washington Times article many years ago where you had a comment about the organization, and then now it's been in the Wall Street Journal, it's been in a lot of different newspapers, and that's the Bohemian Grove. And then you countered them by saying, hey, I don't run around in the woods naked. What did that mean?
Here is the before-mentioned Washington Times article where he said, I didn't run around naked like they do.
I don't know what quote you're referring to. I'm not aware of any quote like that. Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I just respect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But it's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really?
I'm sorry. You took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes. But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuinely?
Thank you, and goodbye. Just leave your damn business.
Oh. Look how strangely he behaved when we brought it up. Why is he acting so secretive? Why did he get so angry when he discovered that we snuck in? You see, they take it very, very seriously. This is one of the hallmarks of the occult and secret societies. The word occult means secret. Secrecy is part of their religion. They revel in it. And when it's violated, they become extremely angry.
Also in the street plan of Washington, you find pentagrams. So here we have two pentagrams in the street plan of Washington. The top one points into the Capitol building, and the one at the bottom points into the White House. This is a political building, so we're told. In fact, it's a temple to a secret society, built by the Freemasons to a specific design, Congress, the Congress building. Where did it get its name from? Capitol Hill, from a sacred place of the Roman Brotherhood going way back called Capitoline Hill. And when Madeleine Albright, high priestess of this brotherhood, became Secretary of State, and she went across on her first overseas visit to Europe, she actually went to Rome and made an official visit, what for her would have been a pilgrimage to Capitoline Hill in Rome, and that's where we get Capitol Hill from. This is George Washington. In the last century, they decided they didn't have a decent statue of George, so instead of getting an American to produce one, they ordered it from Italy, from Florence. And when it arrived on the dockside, people were staggered, because here was George, the first president of the United States, depicted naked from the waist up with this cloth over his Bill Clinton's, and then pointing up one arm, pointing down the other. What's going on? Unless you realize where these people are coming from, it's inexplicable. Well, if you just hold that in your mind, arm up, arm down, naked from the waist up, and then Bill Clinton's covered in a piece of cloth, well, this is where it's coming from. This is the ancient depiction of the compilation of the negative force symbol that the Templars worshipped, or the high-level Templars worshipped anyway, called Baphomet. And this is why they depicted George Washington in that way.
What has come to light is that it is not so surprising for a lot of people that there are covens amongst the very educated class, architects, doctors, lawyers, priests, brokers, and the leisure class.
These are people who have made pacts with the devil.
That's right. It's really the best, the more accurate way of describing it would be that they have indulged themselves in the worship of the goat, of the prince, of the serpent, of Satan, of Lucifer, and they lead perfectly normal lives. They're jewel merchants. They travel. They're prominent in their own way, but they do have this indulgence.
Father, here's a part of that I can never understand. That has never made sense to me, and that is, if somebody were to make a pact with the devil, then obviously the implication is if the devil is there to make a pact with them, to make a deal, to make their life, this short mortal life on earth, pleasurable, with money or women or travel,
more interesting,
whatever it is they want.
Yes.
Then they are aware of the presence of the devil, and they are obviously aware then of the presence of God as well, and they nevertheless make a conscious, stupid, short-term, blind choice to take what they can get in this lifetime. And to embrace one, you must embrace the other. It's not like it's some wishy-washy person.
I know you do. It is a very not easy to understand, except when you talk with them, when they let their hair down and peel grapes, as we say, and when they're on their way to being cured of what or healed is the proper word. You find that there's an exhilaration and a satisfaction which is both sensual and sexual and mental when they really indulge in Luciferian worship. There is a peculiar exhilaration.
Like a drug, then?
Yes. Yes, it's a peculiar exhilaration, and of course, the godly instincts in us all, the angelic in us all, because we all have something angelic and something godly, besides everything else, a lot of other negative things, that is quenched, and you find in them a horror of anything what we call sacred and holy, or sacrosanct. Or the idea of the idea of the sacred, of the awesome.
How in the world did you ever get involved in praying to demon spirits?
A fellow that had been on a particular ship with me, he told me, hey, I got something fantastic to tell you. He said, I am affiliated with people that speak with the spirits of the dead. How would you like to talk to the spirit of your dead mother? And I was shocked. I was shocked. He said, you would be afraid of talking to the spirit of your dead mother, would you? Well, I said, I'll tell you what, I would have to give that some thought, because it's something I never thought about before in my life.
Most of us probably haven't. A little afraid of something like that.
Well, he says, you know, it's written all over your face. You're afraid of going to a seance. But he says, I know you. He says, you're going to come. Well, he says, you know, it's written all over your face. You're afraid of going to a seance. But he says, I know you. He says, you're going to come. And then he started telling me how brave I was when I was aboard ship, you know, different things. He says, you're not the same man, you're changed. You're chicken. That's all I needed to hear. I said, when do we go to a seance? So one Saturday evening, we were in the place. It was the first time. Very beautiful place. The medium was a lady. She had a gorgeous new home in Montreal. And there were about 20 invited guests there, which I was one of them. And she communicated with the spirits for there's different people there. And they're telling them what the Spirit said. One man said, I would like to talk to my friend that died 6 months ago. But I don't want him to appear. Just want to talk to him. Because he says, I don't trust you talking to my friend for me. So the medium says, let me inquire of the Spirit. Yeah, the Spirit will talk with you. And that big masculine voice was heard in the place. It says, hi, Frank. It's nice of you to ask for me to talk with you. And they had a little chat. And after it was over, Frank says, this is the greatest thing on earth, to be able to talk with the spirits of the dead. Then the medium said, we have a very special surprise tonight for you people. A spirit will manifest itself openly here in a few minutes. And it's like a big gust of wind hit the building. And right through the wall. Now the lights weren't terribly bright, but they were like living room lights. A couple of floor lamps and maybe some of these. And that translucent being seemed to come right out of the wall.
How did you feel right at that moment?
It's almost like my heart stopped a little bit. Very weird feeling. So it was a lady in a beautiful evening gown, swirling. And she said to Mary, my dear sister, you are so wonderful to have asked for me. And Mary fainted and fell right off her chair on the floor. And a couple of guys jumped up and picked her up, and it's been gone. And that was the beginning of it.
That's how you got into it.
Yeah, that's the way we got into it. After a while, you see, there's something interesting about the human mind. You can adjust to an awful lot of stuff. You can adjust to a lot of things that would terrify you to begin with. After a while, they become common and ordinary.
So you mean contact with the supernatural can become commonplace and ordinary and doesn't bother anybody?
Yeah.
In other words, the more that you do it, you're not uncomfortable.
That's right.
It's just not an uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about it?
Then I got into a secret society that worshiped the spirits, you see.
Well, how is that different from the seance, Roger?
It happens that the seance are not involving in many ways. But when you get into a secret society of spirit worshippers, then, and especially when you're invited there by the direction of the higher-ups in the spirit world, you never get out of there alive. And this is exactly what my friend and I were up against. We didn't know anything about. And there was a very, very popular big band leader.
Jazz
band. Yeah, very famous. And one night we went to one of these seances, and he was with his wife.
So Roger, you're at this restaurant. What happened?
We sat there, and we had our favorite alcoholic beverages, and as we talked, the band leader says, I want power. I go right to the source of power. And he says, how do you think that I became famous the way that I am? Well, I said, you must have had some good luck. Well, he says, there's no such thing as good luck. He says, there's either some power working for you somewhere, or you don't get ahead in this world. Not in my type of occupation. So it went from there. We got talking about spirit worship.
Did it intrigue you? Or did it make you want to find out more about what exactly he was talking about?
Yeah. So he said the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits. They're fallen angels. They're beautiful beings.
Just set it out, just like that.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't make you uneasy when he said they were...
Well, it shocked you a little bit, something that you first hear mentioned to you. He said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. Because we've been told the high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you two.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. And we were interested to hear more about it. And he told us, he says, look, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. He says there was a misunderstanding in the whole thing. He says among the inhabitants of the galaxies. And he says our master was misunderstood. And God did not bear with him like he does with people that make mistakes today. So we're in a warfare, good against evil. And we happen to be the evil ones, but we're not that bad. He says, I look at this business between the forces of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believes in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics.
So the great controversy is real. And you've heard someone talk about it that's on the other side.
And to these people, they are sold to the fact that Christ will not return to this planet with power and great glory. He's going to abdicate all claims to the planet, because the high priest once said that Christ will abdicate all claims to the planet because he knows that it is lawfully and rightfully Satan's. And at that time, he says, so the priest says, well, now, he says, for those of you that are new, let me tell you that this is the most feasible way, he says, to please the spirits. Is to deride Christ and his people, you know, and his church and all that. So they sing out of Christian hymnals.
They didn't sing Christian words to the hymns, however.
Well, they changed a lot of them. Yeah.
Not for the good.
It's a form of blasphemy. Such as you see today in the rock music world. You see the entertainers, they have these crosses. The ladies got earrings, crosses. The guys got crosses. This is a form of blasphemy, a form of deriding Christ. You see. Spirits cause the people to do that, to find pleasure in wearing this type of emblem, which is the cross is the emblem of the crucifixion of Christ to the Christians.
Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, is that it?
Why not? I'm here on the ground with my nose in it since the whole thing began. I've nurtured every sensation man has been inspired to have. I cared about what he wanted, and I never judged him. Why? Because I never rejected him, in spite of all his imperfections. I'm a fan of man! I'm a humanist. Maybe the last humanist. Who, in their right mind, Kevin, could possibly deny the 20th century was entirely mine?
The master of my life has revealed to me that it is time for you people to become acquainted with the worship room of the gods, where they had the spirits that had materialized. They photographed them, and then they had paintings made of them. And there was probably about maybe 100 of those around the place.
So how did you feel when you walked into that room?
I felt that these people had power, and they had a lot of it.
Did that attract you?
Yes and no.
You had mixed feelings about it?
I had mixed feelings about it. Yeah. Because to a certain extent, things looked so good It sounded so good to us. But you see, I'd been brought up in a Christian home. My dad says, well, you know, if you get involved in wrongdoing, you're going to have to pay the price. There's always a cost for everything in this world. So this thought kept creeping to my mind. Just how far you go with these spirits before we start paying the price.
So it made you just a little bit nervous.
Oh, yes.
But yet you kept going back.
Oh, there was no way out. Because that's what we're told.
You knew at that time.
Yeah.
So you were moving forward more on fear.
More on fear, yes. Because the high priest said that the master had special plans for us in our lives. And that no one ever went into this society unless they were invited by the spirits. See, so that was made very clear.
In reality, Roger, you were chosen by high-powered demon spirits to be a part of their human, special, privileged group.
You see, these people in Montreal, the society, like the priest mentioned, there's thousands of spirit worshippers in only different societies of spirit worshippers in this world. But he says we are the elite. We know the real truth about the master and his angels. And they're not hideous-looking beings. They are gorgeous creatures. And from the paintings that they had on the walls of that worship room.
Now, when you would go to these praise sessions, what kinds of things happened at those sessions?
Well, there's a lot of success stories. The masters has done this for me and that for me. I remember one.
At what point did this demon worship start to affect you personally, Roger?
Well, it wasn't too long that the priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from.
في ناس بس في بيروت وفي لبنان ناس تجربين كبار قوي سمعت والله اعلم يعني ما حدش افهم يقول لك بيجيبوا حاجه الماده السيف الاحمر دي ماده غاليه جدا 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 بيحضروها وبيجيبوها معاهم بيحضروا جن يطلع لهم جن عامل زي الجن الاحمر كده نار في وشه ومش عارف ايه وبيطلع الجن دوت ويديلهم طلباتهم وياخد منهم الزئبق الاحمر ده يشرب. ده اخر معلومات عنه.
So why don't you just ruminate whilst I illuminate the possibility? Whilst I illuminate the possibility. Illuminate the possibility.
The priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from.
Well, Alibaba had them 40 thieves, Scheherazade had 1,000 tales. But master, you in luck, 'cause up your sleeves you got a brand of magic never fails. You got some power in your corner now. Some heavy ammunition in your camp. You got some punch, job, who and house. All you gotta do is rub that lamp, and I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be? Let me take your order, jot it down. You ain't never had a friend like me. Life is your restaurant, and I'm your melody. Come on, whisper what it is you want. You ain't never had a friend like me. Yes, sir, we pride ourselves on service. You're the boss, the king, the Shah. Say what you wish, it's yours, true dish. About a little more baklava. Have some of column A, try all of column B. I'm in the mood to help you, dude. You ain't never had a friend like me.
Genie in a bottle, baby. Come on and let me out.
presenting his devotions and the worship room of the gods, and he will use a trance medium to converse with certain demon spirits that will inform him in regards to ancient history. And the man shook his head a little bit like this. His eyes went glazed, and he stayed at it for a half hour. And the spirit spoke to him. So then the spirit counselor. And what would you like to know?
And so he asked the questions of one of these human beings that was channeling.
Oh yeah, the voice changed and everything. The voice changed for the person completely. And
it identified itself as a spirit guide.
Oh yeah, spirit counselor, yeah.
Okay, a spirit counselor. And then proceeded to tell him all the events that he was asking,
yes.
Answer his question?
They had one pillar on this side representing light, one pillar on this side representing dark. And around the center, you had the area where they used to sacrifice the animals and other living beings. The center between these two points.
It's you. You're a star.
Call me in the morning.
You got it. First thing.
Bye, Larry.
They had three major policies that were going to be followed. First, Lucifer says, we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
You know, Roger, that's interesting because a recent research study report that I read indicated that in a national survey, I believe it's over 75% of people do not really believe in a real tangible devil. But there is one.
The next thing, the three-parts policy that they had adopted there, the second one was to find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind. They felt that by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introducing it as a new science for the benefit of mankind, they could then use people of great renown, educators, people of capacity, that would do great things, such as supposedly regress people in time to former lives that they had. And of course, after the session is over, the person would not know a thing about ancient history. And the person she or he has talked about performing, certain deeds, let's say, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. But this was their strategy. Now, what this would do for the thing is this, that it would create in the minds of the general public, solidly set in the mind of the general public, an unwavering trust in that great deception. So now this would be a way of de-Christianizing the Western world through the avenue of mysticism.
The three things were, number one, that they did not want Satan did not want the human family to think that he or his angels existed.
Right.
The second point that you made had to do with taking control of people's minds.
That's right.
The third point was what?
Was to destroy the Bible without burning it.
Okay.
See?
And what was his strategy on that?
On that, it was very interesting. Because after the Great General Council, it was decided that Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution. He was tutored by Lucifer himself, fallen Lucifer. And at that time, it was understood Satan and his spirit counselors understood that if a person was led to believe in the theory of evolution, it would, in his life, destroy completely the creation week of the Bible, the fall of man, and plan of redemption. It would do away with it. Anyone that teaches a theory of evolution is considered to be a minister of the great religious system. And he said that every teacher of that theory is recognized by the spirits as a person of great value and receives a very special unction from Satan himself, giving great power to induce spiritual blindness, to convince and convert. 3 capacities. This is the grain plain, the Master's grain plain, for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. It's going to be done in a unique manner. This grain plain is going to take people are going to eat the stuff, because it says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
Metaphor. If you think about Aladdin and his lamp, you've probably heard of that one. The genie always says one thing.
Your wish is my command.
You know, the universe is this great genie, and your conscious mind is Aladdin, who formulates the intention of what you choose for your life.
At the very heart and core of all these secret societies lurks the Kabbalah. It is a method of encoding information through a system of mathematics and numbers. These people that belong to the secret societies never dared to write down in any language what they knew, what it was that they were guarding, because then someone could steal it and then the secret would be out. So they took this knowledge and they made it occult through a system of encoding, encryption, one of which is mathematics, numbers. Another is architecture. Everybody wonder, why do they have a fraternal organization called the Freemasons? Aren't those the guys that build walls? You bet they do. But every wall they build contains the secrets that have been kept and maintained throughout the ages, and it's encoded in the architecture and in the measurements of the buildings and in the mathematical formulas used to derive the geometry, the shape, the length and breadth and height of rooms. It's all encoded there.
Is science compatible with spirituality? Can you have spirituality without any religion? Can there be a purpose for the universe? A purpose for your life? The answer to all these questions is yes. A discovery has emerged in astrophysics over the past 2 decades that the universe has a number of properties that are just right for life to evolve. The strength of the gravitational force, the strength of the nuclear force that powers the sun, the amount of dark matter and dark energy. These and several other key properties could have been vastly different than they are. Instead, they are amazingly just right to be conducive to life.
Sinking like stone is all that we fall for. Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done for. And we live in a beautiful world. Yeah, we do, yeah, we do. We live in a beautiful world. Sinking like stones, all that we fall for. Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done for. And we live in a beautiful world. Yeah, we do, yeah, we do. We live in a beautiful world. To run from, 'cause yeah, everybody here's got somebody to lean on.
So now we're on a spiritual side of the journey, watching the sunset and the beautiful mountain.
What do you think of Lebanon so far?
And I think it's awesome. I think
This was the cave that Jesus hid in for a while, and his friends and disciples used to bring him food. He chose to be here because it's an isolated area in South Lebanon when he fled from Palestine.
have seen pain resting on the shoulders of your name. Do you see the truth through all their lies? Do you see the world through troubled eyes? And if you want to talk about it anymore, lie here on the floor, on my shoulder. I'm a friend. I have seen, but I have seen death. Live to see a lover's final breath. Do you see my guilt? Should I feel fright? Is the fire of hesitation burning bright? And if you want to talk about it once again, on you I depend. I'll cry on your shoulder. You're a friend. You and I have lived through many things. I hold on to your heart. I wouldn't cry for anything. But don't go tearing your life apart. I have seen fear, I have seen faith, seen the look of anger on your face. And if you want to talk about what will be, come and sit with me. Cry on my shoulder. I'm a friend. And if you want to talk about it anymore, lie here on the floor. Cry
the kingdom of the Jews was destroyed by who? Nebuchadnezzar. The Babylonian kingdom, they defeated the Jews in the Holy Land and they broke up their kingdom. Not only that, they took them as slaves back to Iraq and Babylon. They took them back to Babel. And the Jews were cut off from the true religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were cut off from the scripture for quite a while. And they were under the influence and the dictatorship and the oppression and the tyranny of the Babylonians. And that is where a lot of the distortion that happened to the religion of Judaism, that is where it occurred. It occurred in Babel. Where was the Talmud written? And who wrote it? It was written by the 70 rabbis who were in Babylon. And now that is the central and the focus, that is the law and the central focus of the Yahud now. They have left the Torah and they are following the Talmud. And the Talmud was written by the rabbis who were influenced by the regime and the environment in Babylon. The other point, the issue of the temple. This temple of Sulaiman is a myth. There's no such thing called temple of Sulaiman. The one who built the masjid was who? Yaqub alayhi salam. Sayyidina Sulaiman is the one who erected the masjid and expanded it during his kingdom. It was not a temple, it was a masjid. Let's read from Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah which is 101. And when there came to them a messenger from Allah, came to who? He was talking about Al-Yahud, the Jews. And when there came to them a messenger from Allah, confirming what was sent to them, a party of those who were given the scripture threw away the book of Allah behind their backs as if they did not know. So they threw away the book of Allah when Rasulullah ﷺ came, because they don't want to follow him. And what did they follow? وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينَ عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ. And they followed what the devils gave out in the lifetime of Sulaiman. What is this talking about? The devils were teaching the people magic. Ash-shayateen, the devils, were teaching the people magic before the time of Sulaiman and during the kingdom of Sulaiman. As-Siddi, in his tafsir of this ayah, he says, Sulaiman came to know that the devils are teaching people magic. So he gathered all of their manuals and books.